So for the basketball scene, um, to create the backboard, I use a linear equation, y equal to something, and setting the domain, x is 27 to 29. And to create the shaded part on a backboard, I put x is greater than 30. I mean greater than 29, but is lesser than 30. So this um, by entering this, it will make the backboard shaded. And to create the basketball net, I use cubic um, equation used in vertex form and setting the domain of x so the parabola will stop um, at the basketball rim. And for the basketball on hand, um, I used the quadratic equation in vertex form so I can shift the parabola to the right and up, and this is what my parabola look like. And I also entered this function b equal to f of s and inserted um, an image of a basketball and changed the center point to s comma f of s and created a slider for s, so when the s shift, it moves the basketball through the parabola like that. So to create my phrase I can't do that, I use linear line, such as x is equal to create straight lines, vertical straight lines, and y equal to create horizontal line. And I also use the circle equation, and to create a C, I used this equation and set the domain for x, so the circle cuts off at 1.75 to create a C. And for the O, I use the same circle equation, but instead I put 2 for x, which makes the circle more oval, and by changing the x, it makes the oval thinner on the side. So for the paintbrush part, for the handle, I use the quadratic equation in vertex form and set the domain for x, so the graph would stop here. And for this part, I use the exponential equation, which is y equal to ax. And I also put 34 negative 34.8, which shift the graph to the right, and plus 10, which makes the graph move upward. I also set the domain for this 35 and 33.5, so the graph would stop, the line would stop here. And for the top, I use cosine rule, which is y equal to cosine x, and I put c to x so I can move the graph like this, which makes the brush look more realistic. So for the artwork part, I created two different equation for the wing, which is one controls the right wing and the other control the left wing. I did this because in order to move the left wing, I needed to be negative, and to move the right wing, this has to be positive. And to create this effect, I used the linear equation but in complex vertex form, and I put the a here, which moves the line up and down like this, and I put 12. This 12.25 moves the x-axis, which is here, and 13.5, which moves the linear graph, so, the vertically, which is here. And I also set the domain, so you wouldn't see the whole line, which would look like this, like that. So when you move it, the center point is not at 0, but instead it's at the point where I set it at. So to create this wave, I use the sine rule, which is y equal to sine x, and by changing this, it means that there's only 0.1 um, period in that interval. And to create the eyebrow, I use the quadratic equation but negative, so the slope will be pointing upward. And for the mouth, to make it move, I use the circle equation, and I change y. I put y. I meant I put b here, so it moves the circle up and down like that. And I also set the limit to 3.5, which means that the circle limits is here. So when as the circle move up, you see the circle closing, which creates the mouth close effect. So for the light bulb theme, to create this blinging effect, um, I use different sliders. I use four different sliders, which control um, each line. And for example, I use this equation which creates the linear line for this line, and I put a um, here, so it changes the limit of the line. And I did this with all the other lines, putting the slider um, greater than x, so that you can change the length of the line up and down like that. So when you click play, it creates a blinking effect. For this quote, all I used was linear equation, such as y equal to or x equal to and y equal to x. And I also use circle equation, and I did not use any complex um, function to create this quote. And to create this dot, I put the point, which is 32 and negative 9.